Hello everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Heather and we're here with another monthly reading wrap up, this time for the month of April. I cannot believe it's already May. This year has gone by so fast, I feel like. But I had a very good reading month this month. I got through quite a few books and I actually really enjoyed a lot of them. So I'm very excited to talk about the books. And we're just gonna dive right into it. Starting off actually with a book that I read on the Kindle. So I will just put the picture up on the screen, but I started off the month reading Theodosia and the Staff of Osiris. I think I'm saying that right. This is book 2 in the Theodosia Throckmorton series. This is a middle grade fantasy series about a little girl whose parents are the curators of a Egyptian history museum in London, and she can sense magic, and so she has taken it upon herself to rid all of the artifacts that they bring into the museum of their black magic and curses and things like that. And so it's just this 11-year-old girl who is getting rid of curses and basically lives in an Egyptian museum. But they're just super fun. I actually picked this book up on our way back from Spain. If you've watched our vlogs, you know we went to Spain, and so I was on the flight back, and on the way there I'd kind of burned through every movie on the list that I actually wanted to watch. So I got it off Libby and I put it on the Kindle and I just read that instead of watching movies because it sounded more fun. So I don't think I finished the whole book. I wasn't feeling very good, so I actually slept most of the flight, but when I was awake, a lot of it I was reading that book. So this isn't the first book I started the month with, but it is the first one that I finished in April. So that's Theodosia. I gave this book 4 stars. I just really love the series. They are rereads for me. It's a book that I loved as a kid, and they're just so entertaining. I think that the characters are just so fun. I love a good book with the kids just being super competent, but what I love about these books is the parents aren't necessarily incompetent. They just don't sense magic, so they are very competent business people and archaeologists, and they're very good at what they do, but they have no idea that there are curses or magic or anything. So you have this like interesting combination of the really oblivious parents but also still very competent. They're not like dumb, and so I think that that's really fun. I feel like a lot of times adults in kids books are just kind of stupid, and so I like that they are still very competent people, well-rounded characters, but they are still sort of oblivious of what's going on. So I don't know, really fun. If you're looking for just a good kids book or anything like that, they're great. I highly recommend. And then actually the book that I started the month with, but it took me longer to read, is this bind up of Lazarillo de Tormes and The Swindler. These are 2 Spanish novels. The first one, Lazarillo de Tormes, is one that nobody knows who the author is. We just know it's someone from Spain. And then The Swindler is by Francisco de Quevedo. But since we were going to Spain, I wanted to read a book that was set in Spain while we were there, so this is what I picked. I'm not sure how I felt about these 2 stories. They're both pretty anticlimactic. Both stories, and I think this is why they chose to bind them up together, are about little kids that just kind of are very Tom Sawyer-esque. Like, they're just kind of having free reign. They don't really have parents in their lives, and you're just kind of following their story about how they just get up to trouble, basically. And there's not really a point to either book, so it's kind of an interesting read. I don't know. Not sure how I feel about it. It was fun. For like classic older books like this, I feel like it's a pretty good option. They're very entertaining, but I don't feel like there was anything super special about them. So I gave it 3.75 stars. Definitely interesting if you're looking for a book to read while you're in Spain. It's kind of fun. We didn't go to the parts of Spain that this was necessarily set in, but we did last time we were there, so it was really fun because I could picture some of the places that they went because I'd been there. So that's that one. Not a ton of thoughts on this one, but it was good. It's not like something I'm gonna go raving about, but if you want just like a fun classic from Spain, pick it up. And then I read a book that I'm actually shocked I managed to wait this long to read, but I was just trying to make myself get through some things for video ideas that I had, and so I kept putting this one off, but I finally picked up Foul Heart Huntsman by Chloe Gong. This is the final book in the Secret Shanghai universe, and the second book in the, what is this specific the like Foul Lady Fortune duology. So I gave this book 4.75 stars. It was so good. It's definitely a thicker one, but you are following characters that you have seen quite a bit of over the past several books. I will say the first little bit of this was a little slow for me. I feel like it lost a little bit of what I loved about the first book in this duology, because that one was just so good. But what I loved about it was the banter and the relationship between two main characters, and they kind of get separated at the end of the first book. And so then it took a longer to get them together than I thought it would in this one, honestly. So I was a little bit bummed out. I felt like I wasn't getting quite the vibe that I liked about the first book. You do get to the point where it brings in several other characters. I wish there was a little bit more of some of those characters from the first duology. I know this isn't actually about them, but I do wish that they had more than just like cameos, because I liked all of them together. Was just such a fun mixture of people, and I would read so many more books in this series. Like, she could seriously write so much more with these characters and I would eat it all up. The first part dragged a little bit, but once we got everybody back together and we got really going on things, it went super fast. I loved it. I thought the ending was done super well. I think it really was just a fascinating place to end it, where they are very much so still in the throes of like civil war. This whole thing is this whole series is set in Shanghai at the height of their, I guess what would be, of the Japanese invasion is about to happen. It's kind of hanging over their heads. The first two are kind of set more in gang wars. This one's more Japanese invasion is looming. And so it was just an interesting way, because you end it on like a happy ending, but also you know this is still going, but you have to like hope that they'll make it through it, right? So I don't know. I thought it was very good. I don't know the Shakespeare story very well that it was based off, so I have no idea how much of this was pulled from that or what the ending looks like compared to the Shakespeare. But I thought it was very well done. There are just so many characters in here that are just so fun and unique, and I'm really obsessed. So highly recommend. Definitely I would recommend reading These Valiant Delights duology first, but overall just a great series. I wish that her newest thing, the like Immortal Longings, wasn't adult. These are YA, so I don't know if I'll read her newest stuff because it's adult, but if she comes out with more YA stuff, I will definitely be reading it. And then the next one is kind of random, but I read The Grace Year by Kim Liggett. This one came about, if you don't know, I work at a high school and we have a couple TAs that come in 1 hour of the day, and they are both in a English literature class that's like dual credit for college, but they were reading this book in class and they kept telling us about it and all the discussions they were having. And so me and the other person that worked in our office got to the point where we were like, okay, we need to be able to like participate in this conversation. We're so curious because of all the things that they were saying. They're like trying to discuss things with us without spoiling the book. Anyways, so they had both finished the book, but they were still reading it as a class. So we borrowed their 2 copies and we read the book so that we could then like book club with them and have a whole discussion. And I will say this book leads to some very fascinating discussions. This would be a great book club pick because we had some very interesting conversations about it. But overall, I gave the book 3 stars. If you don't know what The Grace Year is, basically it's a story about, it's a dystopia where these girls, basically in this society, girls get sent out when they hit like 16, I think, and they get sent out into the woods for a year to live just sequestered away because they are supposed to be expelling their magic, right? Which is basically just, I don't know, it's, I think loosely inspired by like the Salem witch trials and just men basically blaming everything on girls having magic. And so they're supposed to go and expel their magic so that when they come back they can like be ready for marriage and to move on to like adulthood. Obviously there's more to it than that. It is a dystopia, and basically these girls come back from the Grace Year just looking absolutely brutalized. People have like all like missing body parts, and it's like obviously like this crazy thing, but nobody's allowed to talk about it. So they have no idea what happens at the Grace Year, and so you're following our main character as she gets sent out on her Grace Year. And as she goes through that, there's some pretty gruesome stuff that goes on in this book, but I feel like it's not really dived into a point where it feels super crazy. It's definitely, I would say, still classifies as YA, but it's kind of towing the line with like horror almost, which honestly, that was one of my complaints about it, is I kind of wish they'd just go for it. Like, just make it a horror book. It just was like so close. I don't know how I feel about the ending. It felt pretty anticlimactic. Like, we went through a lot to get to that point. And you just don't really get much resolution out of it. So that was interesting. It's definitely kind of this open ending about how certain things end up, which I don't love open endings in books, so that kind of brought it down for me. Overall, it was interesting, good concepts. I think it brings up a lot of good discussion points. Like I said, it's a great book club book, but I don't know that it's like my favorite writing. I don't know if it's like the best, most well-written story. So that's The Grace Year. Super random. Did not have that one on my list to read at all, but here we are. I read it. It was okay. We're gonna go a little bit out of order here, but I got a book from Libby. This is Where the Dark Stands Still by A.B. Poranek. Not sure how to say that name, but I got this one from Libby. Read it on the Kindle. This one is a fantasy book. It's YA. It's basically, you're following this girl who has magic, but in her society, it sounds really similar to Grace, you know that I'm saying it, but this one magic's like actually a thing. But she has magic and it's pretty shunned in her society. So she decides to go into the forest to try and find this flower that if you pick it, it will give you your wish. And so she wants to go and wish away her magic. But as she's out in the woods, she runs into basically the guardian devil of the forest, and he makes a trade with her that if she will work for him for a year, he will grant her wish and take her magic away. And so you're following her as she spends a year working for the devil of the forest. I will say it was a little bit predictable at the beginning. There are definitely some parts that I was like, okay, you kind of saw that coming if you've read enough YA fantasy, but there were some parts about this that I really did not expect. I thought the ending was fun. I'm not sure. Well, okay, the last little bit was fun. I don't know how I feel about the very, very end. I need like a 100-page epilogue extension on this book. Like, if this author would just write even, like, I don't necessarily need a whole other book. I don't need this to be a series. I just need like a little novella of an extended epilogue. And then I think I'd be okay. But I'm just not sure. Like, it's one of those things where the characters go through so much that I want to see the resolution. I want to see it work out and it be worth it for everything that they went through. And you get hinted at that things might be okay, but you kind of leave off on a really rough point. And so I'm really hoping that at some point the author will feel like they want to write a novella that gives us a little bit more. Again, I don't need this to be a whole series. I don't know that there's enough there to make it like a whole nother book, but just a little novella would satisfy me. Overall, I gave this one 4.5 stars. Again, I found the beginning just a little bit predictable, but there were some really fun characters. There's a sentient house. I have decided that one of my favorite categories of side characters, this is really specific, but are like the shape-shifting, not quite understanding human culture type of characters. So for example, if you have read this book, Yaga, love it. It's a house spirit. She's so funny. I love characters like that. The other one is the one in Little Thieves. Oh shoot, what's the character's name? Ragne. That's the one. She's hilarious. She's so funny. She just like doesn't understand humans very well, but she's like trying to. Anyways, characters like that just crack me up. They're so fun, and I love Yaga in this book. She's just sassy. She speaks her mind and she's great. But yeah, overall I was very impressed with this one. I think it pulls from a lot of folklore that you don't normally see, which are some of my favorite books. I wish more fantasy authors would diversify the types of folklore that they are pulling from, because there's so many interesting things out there and we need more. I believe this one is based off of Polish folklore, but anyways, Where the Dark Stands Still, highly recommend. It was a good time. And then the next 3 books I've kind of jumped around. This is so not in order of how I read these books, but my next 3 books are from a video that just barely went up, and it was for my Reading Spring Books video. So the first one was Trust of the Emerald Sea by Brandon Sanderson. This one is one that I've been meaning to get to for a while. My husband has really been pushing me to read it. This one is a standalone, but it is in the Cosmere. So if you don't know Brandon Sanderson, a lot of his books are part of the same universe, which is the Cosmere. And because of that, you have a character from Way of Kings, the Stormlight Archive, that is the narrator and a character in this book. So a lot of people say that you can start with this book because it's like a standalone, which technically you could. But I feel like it is a lot funnier and you will get a lot more things if you've read at least Way of Kings. You don't necessarily need to read a whole bunch of other books, but if you've at least read Way of Kings before you get into this one, I just feel like you would appreciate it more. I feel like I had a better understanding of exactly what the humor was that I was getting by knowing that it's Wit that narrates this. So, anyways, that's kind of my thoughts as far as starting with this one. I wouldn't recommend, but I don't think you necessarily, like, can't do it. But I gave this one 4.5 stars. It's definitely just a fun story. There were some parts that were just a little slow for me. It took me a minute to get into it. I will say I guessed the ending. Not all of it, but I guessed one of the, what I think was supposed to be a pretty major plot twist. I don't know, maybe. I feel like there's so much foreshadowing that, like, you should be able to figure it out. Like, I don't think I did any crazy deducing to figure out the ending, but I did guess it ahead of time. So it was one of my theories that I gave my husband pretty early on. And it was right. So that was a little disappointing. There's a dragon in it. Wasn't expecting that. That's fun. Yeah, overall it's a fun time. It's not like the most crazy high fantasy, but it was a good time. And then I read The Witch Doctor's Daughter. For all of these books, I'm not gonna go crazy in depth because I have a whole nother video where I read them. So if you wanna know more thoughts, go check out my last video. But Witch Doctor's Daughter by Katrina Maud Dowd. This one is a coming of age story, I guess. You're basically following this, I think she's 21, her name's Sophia, and she was raised by a mom who is basically a witch doctor, and then her dad is sort of a con artist. But you're basically following her. She just tries to figure out her life. She's kind of not sure what she wants to do. She's quit her job. She decides to go live in the longhouse with some of her distant relatives and learn traditional medicine, and she's just trying to figure out what she wants from life. And I will say it's very satisfying because by the end of the book she has figured it out. Like, she knows pretty good what she wants to do, and it's just a really fun book. This author is so incredible at writing, and in a way that just makes me visualize it, and I feel like I can just see these places so well. So I love her writing. That being said, her books are not super readily available in print in the US. I had to ship these from Singapore, but I do believe that they can be bought on Kindle. So I would highly recommend. She has this book. I've also read The Fisherman King by her, and they're so good. I would strongly recommend. This one's a little bit more like women's fiction, but also so good. So I gave this one 4 stars. I would highly recommend. It's definitely not like the most fast-paced book, and I definitely like The Fisherman King more, but it was still a really solid read. And then I picked up Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. This one was the last book that I finished in that spring books video, but I gave this one 3 stars. I don't know how I feel about this one still. It's like fine, but it very much so feels like you are just reading dream logic, and I'm not sure I love that. So that's where I'm at with this one. If you want basically an adult version of this, read Master and Margarita. Very similar storytelling vibe, not at all the same plot, but very similar in that they just like take these leaps of just like, yep, just accept it, don't think about it, let's just keep going with this, and you're like, okay, I'm kind of lost. But I don't think that's my favorite type of story. I like there to be a little bit more logic behind my books, but it was interesting to read the original book because we definitely change a lot of stuff when we make movies and like the common retellings of this. So it was fascinating to read the original. And then the last book that I finished in April was The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher. I gave this book 3.75. This is definitely not my favorite T. Kingfisher. This one is a horror book. I've read one other book that I think classifies as horror by her, and that was A House with Good Bones. I enjoyed that one far more than this. But basically you're following this lady who just got divorced, and she moves into her uncle's Museum of Oddities in North Carolina, and they find a opening in a wall that takes you to another world, and things start going crazy. Ish. I feel like this one had a very slow build up. It took a very long time to get spooky. Like, really, I'd say the last like 100 pages are where it finally gets like, okay, it's spooky. I understand what the threat is. I understand like why this is scary. I feel like for the first little part, it was almost Narnia-esque. Like, they found another land, but it didn't necessarily feel like it was scary. Like, it was just like, oh, cool, we found another land. But it wasn't like, okay, this land is going to kill me, until like halfway through the book. And they were very practical characters, which on the one hand I appreciate. Like, they've definitely made mostly good decisions in this book. This is not one of those books where you're going to be like so frustrated because they make the worst decisions possible and end up getting themselves into horrible situations. But it got a little bit frustrating because they kept like pausing and then like going back to the real world and thinking through some things, and so it just kind of kept making it so we stopped with the build up. And so the last 100 pages were really good. But overall, I don't know that this one's like my top recommendation. If you like really want a specific like tree horror, you could read this. I will say also, I put together the ending of this one pretty quick. Again, I just feel like it was one of those things where it was so obvious what was causing some of the things that by the time the character finally got there, I was like, thank you for finally noticing. Like, how did you not put that together earlier? So that's not really what I want for my horror books. I don't want to be able to predict where we're going with it. There was a little bit of surprise, but not a ton. So I don't know. I thought it was good. I definitely am interested. She said in the author's note that it is very loosely inspired by The Willows by Algernon Blackwood. So I have found that one on the, what is it, the Gutenberg Project, something like that, and put it on the Kindle, so I might read that one this next month. We'll see. It's not like on my TBR, but if I get bored and I decide I want to pick up a little short story horror, I don't want to do them back to back, but I may pick that one up this month. But that was everything that I read in April. I'm going to quickly go through my May TBR. I don't want to make this video too much longer, but I do want to quickly go through that. First up, I have two books that I started in April but didn't fully finish, so those are going to be the first two I talk about. In my spring books video, I did start rereading The Hobbit. I've been working through this one as like a bedtime story. I'm just reading a little bit before night. I've got to be getting close to halfway. I'm at 173, so it looks like I'm almost halfway. So I've just been working through it. This is the illustrated edition. My in-laws got this for me for my birthday last year, so I figured it was time to reread The Hobbit. I've read it a couple times now. It's been fun. It's not anything like super crazy, but it's very fun to read this as like a nighttime story. I feel very nostalgic about it, so that one's fun. And then I also started another reread. This is A Hero for Wendla. This is book 2 in the Search for Wendla series by Toni DiTerlizzi. This is a middle grade to YA, very young YA sci-fi series where you're following this character who is like the last human, and she's on a planet with a bunch of aliens, and I can't say more than that without spoiling, but this is book 2. I'm having a lot of fun. I've got to say, one of my favorite things about this whole series is that it is illustrated by the author, and so you have all these really cool pictures that depict exactly what the author was trying to explain and describe. So I just think it makes it really fun. But I am going to continue my reread of this. There's one more book, it's a trilogy, so I probably won't read the third one in May, but maybe in June. And then the next two books are specifically for a video that I'm having come out for a reading vlog. So I won't go too in depth with these ones, but if you can guess what that video is, props to you. The first one is Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. This one is a cozy fantasy. I feel like everybody knows about it, and I want to know what the hype's about. So that's pretty much why I'm reading this. I'm very curious to see how I feel about this one. I'm a little hesitant because it doesn't really sound like it's got much of a plot. But it's just such a pretty book and so many people have hyped it up that I trust their reading taste, so I'm gonna give it a try. And then another Brandon Sanderson, I'm going to read White Sand. This one's a graphic novel. It is in the Cosmere. This one is a hefty book, but the illustrations just look so good. They're very like full color, very detailed. So I will be reading this one again for a reading vlog, so you guys will see complete thoughts on that one. And then I am currently listening to Illuminations by T. Kingfisher. I know, another T. Kingfisher, but I got it on Libby. I need to finish it in the next few days, so that one will be happening soon. But that one is like a middle grade fantasy one by her, about this little girl whose family makes magical paintings that do different things. I do have a few more books. I'm not gonna run down through them each, but I am planning on doing an Around the World in Books for Eastern Europe this month. I don't know if I'll be able to completely get through all those books this month, but I'm hoping to maybe finish that. And then the very last book that is on my TBR was actually on my TBR for April, but I never got my hold in from Libby, so I am really hoping that I get it this month, and that is Holy Terrors. This is book 3 in the Little Thieves series, which I've already talked about before. It is the final book. Book 2 left off on quite the cliffhanger, so I have been very impatiently waiting for this book. I didn't read the first 2 until really recently because I knew I was gonna want the 3rd book, but people are reading it so slow on Libby, so I am trying to not be too frustrated about the fact that it's taking these people to get through it so long, but I'm really hopeful. I'm like second in line, and I've been second in line for a while, so I'm really hoping that I get Holy Terrors this month and can finish off that trilogy. But that is the last book on my May TBR. I have lots of other books that I would love to get to, but maybe Around the World in Books videos usually take me a bit longer to read those books, and one of them for my Eastern Europe that I want to read is like 700 pages, so I'm not going to put too many more books. If I have tons of hopefuls, like if I listed off books that I would love to get to soon, I would love to get to The Last Murder The Last Murder at the End of the World by Stuart Turton is one that I would love to get to soon. I would love to read City of Glass. I need to continue that series. I've actually been kind of itching to continue in the Endersverse. I need to get to the 2nd series. I think the next one that I have to read is Ender's Shadow. So I don't know. I don't think I'm gonna get to those in April. I would love it if or in May, but I would love it if I could. Hopefully those ones will probably be ones that are on top of my radar for June. At that point I will be on summer break. So I should be able to read so many books. So get ready for my June wrap up because that one will probably have a lot of books in it. But this video has been long enough. I'm gonna go ahead and end it here. Thank you so much for watching. If you have read any of these books and want to share your thoughts, I'd love to chat about them. Or if you have any other books that you would like to add to my never-ending TBR, please comment them down below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next one very soon. Bye.